Hey friends, today I want to talk about BeckyBoo Hill and the recently reversed Murdaugh murder convictions. BeckyBoo was one of the very first videos that I did whenever I started my channel back in September 2024. I started my channel in June, I believe, but I did videos on BeckyBoo in September 2024 and got a copy of her book, which we're going to go over in a little dramatic review because she blatantly plagiarized the first 12 pages of this book, went up on multiple ethics violations, including using money that was supposed to assist with child support payment enforcement to give herself bonuses, and causing Colleton County, South Carolina to have to redo and reabsorb the expense of a major murder trial again because she couldn't not be greedy and unethical. Now, before we get into the book, and I will make it a dramatic review, friends, we'll have fun with that. I want to read you an article where her co-author was interviewed, and because I find what he had to say interesting. Okay, here he is getting all selfied up with BeckyBoo, doing some promos. This is the book, which, like I said, I have my copy of here. Her co-author's name is Neil Gordon, veteran journalist Neil Gordon. The book, Behind the Doors of Justice, The Murdaugh Murders, was later pulled off Amazon after Gordon discovered Hill had plagiarized the first 12 pages of the book. Speaking exclusively with The Sun, Gordon said he was left feeling a lot of different emotions, knowing someone he had worked with so closely had sparked the possibility of a retrial. Not a possibility anymore. Gordon said it was very sad. I mean, the way everything started out was so exciting, putting a book together and our families getting to know each other and the writing the book and having it, opening the box of books the first time and putting in a lot of hard work. And then things just month by month started to unravel. I learned that she plagiarized the chapters of the book, and then there were allegations that she violated some ethics within the clerk of court's office, and then there were some criminal charges. It is really sad. And, I can't imagine what she must be thinking, that she's hearing that she's the cause. I mean, there was no doubt the way the justices wrote the ruling that she is the cause of a new trial. Yes, she is. That's 100%. She's the cause. They said so. Gordon revealed that he was introduced to Hill by his wife, Melissa, who was a trial watcher. Hill confided in Melissa, telling her that she was interested in writing a book and already had a title in mind. Gordon and Hill instantly hit it off, meeting first over the phone to discuss the book before they met in person and began the book writing process through in-person visits, Zoom, and email. Now, here's something I think is key, friends. Gordon says, she struck me as someone with a Southern hospitality and very grandmotherly and very pleasant. Yes, that is her shtick. She's a criminal now. She's costing the state tons of money. But you'll notice he keeps repeating this and actually wants to reignite a friendship with BeckyBoo. And he'll say that this is why. I swear, some people ask to be conned. Like, this dude is making himself such a target. See, she knows she looks grandmotherly and innocent. She uses that, in my opinion. Gordon learned about the plagiarism after Hill's emails were published following an open records request. A BBC reporter accidentally sent Hill a draft of her article, mixing up Hill's address with one of her editors who was also named Rebecca. BeckyBoo got an accidental email and decided, this is mine. I'm going to take it. Same as she did whenever she saw the child support enforcement money and decided to give herself a bonus with it. This is not a good person, in my opinion, friends. In my opinion, I believe that Alec Murdaugh is guilty of murder. I don't like his attorneys. I think they're very slimy, but I do think this was the right ruling because what she did was pretty egregious. Gordon says, why did we all miss it? We all liked Becky. We all admired her Southern charm. We marveled at how she ran the trial of the century. We trusted Becky, Gordon wrote in Trial Watchers. And it was so good, the editor read it and said, it's different from the rest of the book. This is not really in Becky's voice, but it's really well done because she stole it. Gordon says, I tried to give her an opportunity to reflect upon it, and she came up with some lame excuses or responses. And she was a school teacher, by the way, and the biggest thing that school teachers make sure is that kids don't copy someone else's work, or kids don't go on the internet and use someone else's work that is not theirs. So she knew better. Yeah, she knew better. She did not care. She wants what she wants, and she takes it. BeckyBoo gets what she wants. See her little poor me expression there? Grew her hair a little longer, so maybe she wouldn't be so easily recognized. This is when she was pleading guilty to 4 state charges of obstruction of justice, perjury, and misconduct in office. She resigned from her position after that. Now, if you look back at one of my first Becky Boo videos, you'll see clips of her resigning, and she says, "Oh, it's because of my grandchildren. If you know, you know." Ridiculous, friends. Ridiculous. She acted like she wasn't even in disgrace because I think she might be a narcissist. What do y'all think? Now, this is funny right here. It says, when the jury tampering allegations first came out against Hill, Gordon had been quick to defend her. I felt like I had to in a way, and some of it was for selfish or survival type reasons. We had worked so hard on the book. And because my name was on the book, whether I liked it or not, I was tied to Becky. And so I thought it was important to get out in front of this situation. Yeah, he defended her hard. So, man, got to be careful about defending people. They may be doing things behind doors. You don't know. It's happened to me, friends. Gordon seems to recognize here how narcissistic and crazy some of the things that Becky did was. It says, Gordon says he had concerns about conflict of interest with Hill working on county time to promote the book after she did an interview in her clerk of court's office. Yeah. I mean, this shows an incredible either lack of judgment or superwoman complex that she was untouchable. I think it's that one. Gordon explained that his family and Hills grew close during the book writing process, and despite all that went down, he believes she is a sweet Southern lady like Aunt Bee from the Andy Griffith Show. Why? Why the hell would he believe that? She's shown that she will plagiarize, that she will steal money, that she will obstruct justice. And because of her manners and because of that grandma face there, he still thinks she's something she's not. You got to believe people when they show you who they are, friends. In my opinion, what do y'all think? Look, trying to be all a little plainer and innocent there doesn't work. But then here's what gets me. He says, Becky was grandmotherly to me, even though I'm actually older than her. Kind of looked at her in that realm, and so did my daughter, Lindy, as well. When she would stay over, Lindy would, climb into bed with her, and they would, read a story or what have you. So it was a very close relationship. This weirdo wants to stay close with her because she has a grandmotherly way. I guarantee it's fake, in my opinion, friends, because she stole. She tampered with the jury. She obstructed justice. She did all these things allegedly, some factually, some still alleged. Yeah. Gordon said Hill has a tremendous support system, but he can't imagine her going to the grocery store in Walterboro, her hometown. No, I can imagine not. That's those people's tax money. That's their tax money. It's going to have to be spent to redo this again because she wanted to write a book and get a lake house. Gordon said he is no longer in contact with Hill or her husband, Tommy, but is open to speaking with her again. And that's what I'm saying, friends. Freaking crazy. Why? This dude's setting himself up. He says, I believe in giving people grace. I mean, we all make mistakes, no question about it. It just hadn't been the right time. I think she's been in so much legal trouble and police trouble and all of that. So maybe when the dust settles a bit, probably after the retrial, maybe we'll try to make amends. Freaking weirdo. Dude wants to try to make amends with someone who caused his name to be on a book that's part plagiarized. See right there at the top? Neil Gordon, Becky Hill. She's grandmotherly, and he thinks of her like Aunt Bee. Weirdo. Now, when we get into the book, the very first thing is a foreword by a lady named Rhonda Rich. And I bet she deeply, deeply regrets this foreword now because it looks like Becky sucked up to this lady like she did Nancy Grace. And then this lady wrote the foreword for her book, just a glowing defense and review of BeckyBoo. And now I know that she's a criminal. Now I know how much money she's costing the state of South Carolina. Yeah. Rhonda says, Southern storytelling is both my heart and trade. As a best-selling author and syndicated newspaper columnist, I write stories as seen through the eyes of the South and its people, so I move around the region looking for colorful characters and enthralling experiences. It was the allure of a Southern Gothic murder trial that drew me to Walterboro, South Carolina, and led me to my introduction to one of the most astounding Southern women who has ever crossed my path. BeckyBoo, friends. From the moment I met Becky Hill, I knew that the divine hand of God was moving and that only an almighty power could have brought us together. She believes God led her to this child support stealing criminal. Now, this lady goes on to say, Colleton County authorities were kind. One deputy brought her phone out and propped it up on a chair so we could watch live television coverage. With such neighborliness, I was brave enough to enter the courthouse and ask permission to use the ladies' room. Yes, ma'am, just right over there. A few minutes later, I returned. A lovely woman with thick, glimmering blonde hair had her arms propped up on a metal detector, thoughtfully studying a video monitor of the courtroom. She glanced around and smiled at me, then immediately asked, "How many are in your party?" "Just me," I replied. She winked, a look of pure joy dancing across her face. Why was that? Because she recognized somebody famous, friends? She said, "I have a seat for you. See this chair?" She pointed to a monitor. "It's right in front of the judge. I'm going to take you through the door at the front of the courtroom. Slip in quietly and go straight to the chair." My eyes widened. "Is it okay for me to sit there?" "Yes, it is," she replied cheerfully. "That's my seat, and I'm giving it to you." What did that get, BeckyBoo? That got BeckyBoo this forward from this lady, going on about what a wonderful, grandmotherly Southern woman she is. Oh, yeah. She says, equally impressive was the gentle authority with which she directed her staff and answered the needs of the judge, the attorneys, the clerks, the jurors, and the media. Miss Becky was loved, respected, and happily obeyed. She ruled with an iron fist, deceivingly wrapped in the softest silk. It was wrapped in her stealing money for bonuses for herself, but also for gifts, lunches, a lot of things that she was giving away to people. Okay, and this is where this woman loses all of her credibility. She probably had some before, but listen to this, friends. Her name is Rhonda Rich. Rhonda says, "It is widely believed that I wrote the Bible of Southern womanhood with my best-selling book. I am an authority on feminist, a phrase I coined, who are commanding professionally, yet thoughtful, courteous, and sweet women who work hard, excel at what they do, have hearts to be helpful, and treat each person with respect. Yet, even I watched Becky Hill move seamlessly between her professional duties and personal people skills and thought to myself, there is no more of a perfect Southern woman than she." Many people identify the South as being from the Ozarks to Appalachia and on down. And as an Ozark born Southern woman, I would like to respectfully say, fuck you. But anyway. Okay, the preface is next, and I'm going to skip it because it is plagiarized, and we're covering BeckyBoo in this video and not the actual good writing. A BBC reporter, let me get her name here real quick where I Googled it. Her name is Holly Hondrick. The preface is actually good. Neil Gordon. So the editor was shocked that the preface was not in Becky's voice and was more well written than the rest of the book. And you see here at the end of the preface where Becky takes full responsibility as if she wrote it herself. Now, chapter 1 is called The Verdict. And I feel like Becky just self-confesses to crimes. She self-confesses, in my opinion, allegedly, to basic jury tampering. Let's see what y'all think, friends. Reading the verdict of a jury at the end of a trial should be as simple as reading from a third-grade primary school book. However, from my perspective, as clerk of the Colleton County Circuit Court behind closed doors, it was just not going to be that easy this time. I was very concerned, even conflicted, by professional relationships I had developed with the defendant, Alec Murdaugh, and the Murdaugh law firm, including Alec's brother, Randy. I had come to know the Murdaughs and the members of the firm as I served in my capacity as official court reporter for 14 years for the South Carolina Judicial Branch, and then for the 2 years serving as Colleton County Clerk of Court. I had known Alec for all those years, not only as a civil attorney, but also as serving on the other side of justice in his role as assistant solicitor for the 14th Judicial Court, comprised of Colleton, Hampton, Jasper, Allendale, and Beaufort counties. But now, here we are with a horrendous double murder trial wherein a jury would soon be deciding the fate of Alec Murdaugh, criminal defendant. Regardless of guilt or innocence for me, reconciling Alec's diametrically opposed roles was troublesome, not something I would allow to interfere with my sworn duties as clerk. Bullshit. That's clearly bullshit because anyway. You know what I'm about to say, friends? Everything got overturned because of her bullshit actions interfering. So, what a stupid thing to say. Just what a stupid thing to write. Anyway. Although I was conflicted about knowing the Murdaugh family and about having so many people watching and listening to me as I read the verdict, I was mostly concerned about Alec being found innocent when I knew in my heart he was guilty. She actually said that, friends. When I say she's confessing so much in this book, she literally said, I was mostly concerned about Alex being found innocent when I knew in my heart he was guilty. I had this fear that the goodwill the Murdaughs had built up in the community would influence the jury, and so she decided to influence them herself. And now, Colleton County, South Carolina is probably going to have to spend millions of more dollars of innocent taxpayer money because this woman thought she knew better than decades and centuries of legal precedent designed to prevent this sort of thing. Am I going too hard on her, friends? This kind of crap really annoys me, you know? Let me know in the comments. For more than a century, the Murdaugh family had built their name throughout the Low Country. Their legacy of controlling the justice system as solicitors, attorneys, and as prominent wealthy family had come with alleged misuse of power. Yet there was a lot of love and loyalty for them. As I was experiencing some concern and anxiety about the trial, my spirit was communicating with God. He is my strong tower, and I run constantly to Him in my thoughts. I was well aware that He is in control of everything, and I knew justice would prevail. I became clerk of court by working my way up through the court system for most of my professional life, which included administration roles in law offices for many years, as well as being a statewide court reporter in South Carolina for 14 years. I announced my candidacy for clerk of court in March 2020. I ran against two other candidates and was elected in November 2020. I filled a seat that was left vacant by retiring clerk of court in Colleton County. Even though the clerk of court oversees the courthouse, the judge oversees the courtroom. For the Murdaugh trial, I was liaison to many people who were involved in all the key aspects of the case, including the judge, the jury, the galley of attendees, the media liaison, the attorneys, the bailiffs, and even the public. I sometimes received dozens of texts or emails per day with unsolicited advice on how to conduct the trial and how the attorneys should proceed. She really thinks she conducted that trial, friends. And people like Neil Gordon still kissing her ass are feeding into her delusion. In a normal month, a clerk of court is charged with docket management, the receipt of fees, fines, and costs, the maintenance of all court records, the submission of reports to a variety of state and federal agencies, the calendar schedule for trials, and the roster of cases to be called. I manage a staff that includes clerks, bailiffs, and more. For the Murdaugh trial, I had direct interaction with about 50 professionals from all parties involved in the case. Though I look like an experienced clerk of court at age 55. She's like, I'm 55 years old, yo. I had only assumed my elected position 2 years prior to the start of the Murdaugh trial. Unlike other trials, we experienced 12 to 14-hour days during the Murdaugh trial, which turned into long nights of preparing for daily activities, such as ensuring exhibits were put up securely at night before and brought back into the courtroom the next day. I conducted regular planning meetings with security personnel and made sure gallery badges were prepared for the next day. We had cleanup detail each night with leftover food and cleaning in several areas, such as the judge's chambers, the break room, the jury room, and the courtroom. After Judge Newman's jury charge, the jury was directed to retire into the jury room to begin deliberation once they received the exhibits in the trial. It was Thursday, March 2nd, 2023. The time on the clock in the back of the courtroom read 3:05 p.m. At 6:20 p.m., only 3 hours and approximately 15 minutes after the court released the jurors to deliberate, I walked through the courtroom and down the hallway, leading to the... Dave, you're running a dramatic moment. Leading to the jury room to ask my bailiff, Bill Polk, what the jurors would like for supper. A jury bailiff is seated outside the jury room at all times during deliberation, and in short order, Bailiff Polk relayed a message from the jurors that there was no need to order anything for them to eat, as their verdict was coming soon. This was unusual. Most murder trials take some time for the jury to reach a decision. Well, she told 3 of them basically, hey, he's guilty. Dave, what's in on this? Bobby, you gotta let me film. Anyway, Bailiff Polk relayed a message from the jurors that there was no need to order anything for them to eat, as their verdict was coming soon. This was unusual. Most murder trials take some time for the jury to reach a decision, but apparently the jurors were satisfied they would be returning to the courtroom shortly with a verdict. I was caught a bit off guard. Then a slight nervousness began to take hold as I immediately realized I would soon be center stage of the courtroom, delivering one of the most serious, most important tasks of the clerk of court in a trial, reading the verdict. Oops, I scared Dave. Sorry, puppy. I would very soon be standing before the judge, jurors, prosecutors, defense, news media, interested citizens, and camera broadcasting to the entire world to read the Murdaugh murder trial verdict. I had read verdicts in previous court cases, but none of those cases nor any experience I'd had in my life prepared me for the pressure this moment would hold. The case had been long and horrific for our small county. And now it's going to be again, thanks to you, BeckyBoo. And it had gained international attention. Some might view this opportunity as a payoff moment in a clerk of court's career, a chance to be a part of courtroom history. That's what she did. Projection as self-confession. I think we're reading it here, friends. After all, one does not step into such a position without being a bit of a legal eagle. My entire career had led me to this point from the ground up. I had been a middle school teacher, worked in the state at a local disabilities agency, had held administrative roles in law office for many years, and served as a court reporter for the state of South Carolina before I announced my candidacy as clerk of court and was elected in November 2020. She keeps saying that over. I was elected in November 2020. Girl, we know you were elected. You're the clerk of court that fucked everything up. You had to get elected to be there. I'd put in effort. While I always hoped to be part of history, I didn't foresee it being this way, reading a verdict about someone I personally knew. You know what? Seeing her crimes, I believe she personally knew the Murdaughs. Sounds like they might have been birds with a feather. At some point, after all the planning and the opening of the trial, it hit me the toll the trial had taken on my health. I'd been going 200 miles per hour, early days, long nights, a bout of COVID-19 that knocked me out of the courtroom for a week. I was about to read the verdict with no clue what the jury had decided. Oh yeah, no clue. You told 3 of them, make sure it's guilty, basically. Allegedly. My reading was going to be broadcast worldwide. That was huge. Deep in thought, I sat in my upstairs office staring out the window overlooking the front of the courthouse square. The sun had already set and the darkness covered the town. I could see the courthouse flagpole with our American flag and our state flag flying, dancing in the wind. The sun was shining upon them, putting them in the spotlight. Would justice be done here tonight? No, thanks to you, Becky. Sorry, breaking it. No, thanks to you, BeckyBoo. Would we receive a verdict of truth? You would get the verdict you want. And if it is the truth, nobody knows because it has to be redone thanks to BeckyBoo. What do you think, Dave? Freaking BeckyBoo. But above all, what would be the end of a very stress-filled 6-month period of preparation and trial execution? I was about to read the verdict, and I would not know if it was guilty or not guilty until after Judge Newman had read it to himself and handed it down to me from the bench. Oh, Becky, clutch her pearls, clutch her pearls. Poor sweet Southern Becky. In an instant, my mind broke away from these reflections and brought me back to present. And just like that, I picked up my cell phone and dialed Melinda Nettles, my friend and mentor. She and her husband were the ones who would encourage me to run for Colleton County Clerk of Court in early spring 2020. I bet Colleton County has some things to say about them now. Thanks to Becky outing who encouraged her to be in this position to cost them all this money and time. As clerk of court in neighboring Hampton County, Melinda is also a trusted colleague. She has read hundreds of verdicts during her career, and she was the one person who could truly empathize with me. By the time she picked up my call, my heart was beating faster, and I said to her, I don't think I could read this verdict. In her sweet, nurturing Southern drawl, Melinda said, honey, it's just like every other verdict you ever read in court. I remember laughing and saying, no, it's not. You just wait. Your time is coming. Sure enough, months later, my experience in the Murdaugh trial would help Melinda in her courtroom. As of the writing of this book, a wrongful death civil boat trial will be held in August 2023, the same boat that also involves the Murdaughs. Is she trying to set Melinda up for a book? Was Neil Gordon going to help Melinda write a book too, friends? Melinda's pep talk helped, but still didn't convince me that I should read the verdict. You have no choice. That's literally your freaking job. Like you, as she keeps saying, she was elected by the people in November 2020 to be clerk of court. You're going to quit so you don't have to read it? Like, fucking idiot. Anyway, when Judge Newman reconvened court and brought the jury back in, I became a bit nervous again. I was used to reading charges against defendants who were involved in bar shootings, driving without a license, and drug deals. Regular, average kind of folks. But this was a Murdaugh. This was life-changing. Life-changing for Alec and his whole family. As if the other murders aren't life-changing. Oh, this woman irritates me with every word that comes out of her mouth, friends. Let me know in the comments if you think I'm just being too hard on her. If I'm being too harsh, let me know. I may not agree, but I still want to know what you think. Let me know, friends. Normally, people of notoriety make a plea deal so they don't have to be tried in front of the whole world, but Alec didn't. I believe Alec is a classic narcissist. He has lofty thoughts about himself. Oh, projection much, Becky? Do you know that from experience? I feel like he had convinced himself he was innocent and that he had cleaned up the murder scene so well that he would not get caught. I think he thought he had lies and the alibis wrapped up tight. Oh, friends, you know she was proud of that rhyme. She was probably like picturing herself as a rapper. He had the lies and alibis wrapped up tight. I was advised by another friend in the judicial realm to remain level-headed and to be the great clerk of court that you are and treat this as any other defendant on trial. They checked on me every week via text messages to ensure my mental health was okay. They also sent prayers up for me and everyone involved. When the jury had made its decision, Judge Newman said, Madam Forelady, have you reached a verdict? Yes, the Madam Forelady said. If you will pass it up to the clerk, who will pass it up to me, Judge Clifton Newman instructed. I prepare for my part. Judge Newman read silently through the material for about 30 seconds and said the defendant shall rise. The court was eerily silent as Alec Murdaugh stood before the judge, a jury of his peers, the attorney, the media, his fellow citizens, and indeed, the world. Judge Newman directed his attention toward me and said, Madam Clerk, you shall publish the verdict, starting with the back, not the front. He gestured me toward the bench, re-instructed me on the order of which I should read, and then hand me the verdicts. So much unnecessary detail. She quotes the judge telling her what to do and then re-explains how she's going to follow their instructions. Judge Newman and I had not discussed this part, the reading of the verdict part, during the trial, and I was caught off guard. Judge Newman was heard on the video coverage coaching me to say, in the state of South Carolina versus. She says she's read other verdicts, but also acts like she had to be coached on what to do. From where I was standing in the court, I could see Alec Murdaugh staring at me. I could sense he, along with so many others, was wondering what in the world was taking so long for me to read the verdict. If you watched the verdict with millions of others on network cable, network news, cable television, and digital platforms like YouTube, you probably saw that I paused in the middle of my passage. Then I began reading the words on the indictment. Docket number 2022 GS-15-00592, the state of South Carolina and the county of Colleton in the Court of the General Sessions. In the term of 2022, July, the state versus Richard Alexander Murdaugh, defendant indictment for murder, SC code 16-3-0010, CDR code 0116. I said, pausing briefly, I hardly missed a beat and continued. Guilty verdict signed by Forelady 3-2-23. I had to wrap my head around the first indictment, and then I was ready to go on to the second, the third, and the fourth. They were all the same. Murdaugh was found guilty of 2 murder charges and 2 weapons charges in the death of both his wife, Maggie, and son Paul. Judge Newman and I had developed a great relationship during the Murdaugh trial. Oh, did you? Good to know, Becky, as he was enlisted from Columbia, South Carolina by Supreme Court Justice Donald Beatty to preside over all the proceedings as local judges have been recused. When we spoke at a later point of the trial, he shared with me that he wanted to publish the findings the old-fashioned way by reading the indictment, which was his preferred way to read a verdict. We had a great laugh about it when I displayed a little of my Southern charm to him and told him it would have been nice to know that beforehand. Her Southern charm is fake, friends, because she's a criminal who likes to manipulate things. And people who like to manipulate things will figure out what works for them in a manipulation, like maybe sticking to repeating their age or something like that, or how they're like an innocent little grandma. He laughed and replied, "Aren't you glad you read it now?" Why would she be unless she's attention seeking? What a weird thing for him to ask. He clearly, in my opinion, knew that she was attention seeking, because why else would she be glad? There's no reason, in my opinion. If you think different, let me know in the comments, friends. It's totally cool if you don't agree. Yes, I said, but I don't understand why you couldn't read it, though. That's the clerk's job, he said, and then mentioned that he doesn't usually read verdicts. I had the feeling that this guy liked Becky and knew what she was up to and tried to help her out. That's just my feeling, allegedly, friends. Let me know what you all think in the comments. Might be wrong, just my opinion. Other clerks in my office and I also had the privilege to swear in more than 70 witnesses during the 6-week trial, and I personally did so with 12, including Alec Murdaugh and his son Buster, who both took the stand. When I swore Buster in, I noticed he had much darker eyes than his dad, and he looked at me the whole time. I was just looking for something off with him, and I couldn't find anything. He just looked at me and was very cordial. He was there to do what he needed to do and patiently waited for me to finish. Even Alec looked me in the eye when he took the stand. I had spent time with this man in other courtrooms, standing on the same side of justice together, and now he was on the opposite side of me with the opposite side of justice. I searched his eyes the whole time I was speaking to him. He seemed to be in a distant place, not really seeing me, but seeing something else, almost like he was programmed to do this. He knew exactly what to say. He said, "I do," before I even finished. Felt like a quick answer, like he was going through the motions. You can tell many people who get up on a witness stand are nervous and self-conscious to be in front of so many people. With Alec, there was no such nervousness. He was just anxious to get on the stand and tell his version of the story. As a witness takes the stand, it is an oath of honor that is administered in the courtroom. It doesn't matter where a person comes from. I look them in the eye and I have them put their hand on the Bible and either swear or affirm in their testimony that will be truth to the best of their ability. She, may I remind everyone, was indicted for perjury. And the state of South Carolina and Colleton County is about to be out millions of dollars, or maybe even another place, because they might have to change the venue. Because who in Colleton County is actually going to give Alec Murdaugh a fair trial? How are they going to get a jury there? So they may have to change venue. And if that's the case, a whole other place, taxpayers are going to be out massive amounts of money because of BeckyBoo. BeckyBoo wanted to write a book and get a lake house. Listen to what she says here. As time has gone by, people have begun to lose reverence for the oath. There's a little bit of truth on the witness stand, a lot said that is not truthful. At least when we administer the oath, we take it very seriously. She was administered that oath and committed perjury. She took an oath as clerk of court for the Colleton County office and then proceeded to steal child support enforcement money to give herself bonuses to take people out to lunch. Fucking criminal. Becky says, looking back on all this, I think God has been preparing me all along for the trial of the century. In 2017, I was a court reporter during the Gloria Satterfield case. She was the housekeeper and caretaker for the Murdaugh family who died on the Moselle property. I always knew the Murdaugh family could be characters, and like others, I heard rumors of hidden bodies and untimely deaths and fixed juries. She heard rumors of fixed juries, so she decided to fix it herself. She is what she's complaining about, in my opinion, friends. In February 2019, a boat accident happened in Beaufort County involving Paul Murdaugh and 5 of his friends. Paul was charged with the death of Mallory Beach. That shed a light on a lot of things happening for me. From this moment, Paul first reached out and called his granddaddy Randolph, and Alec and his wife Maggie went as fast as they could to the scene of the boat accident and then to the hospital. The line of trying to place blame was in motion. Then I've read where John Marvin, Alec's brother, was called to come and bring the trailer to the scene of the accident. That is not usually a normal thing that occurs to the regular person living anywhere in the Low Country. As I stated earlier, our Colleton clerk of court decided to retire in 2020, and I ran for the position and won the election in November 2020. Why does she keep saying the date she won the election over and over and over? Was there something off about that election? Because it seems very projecting how she keeps over and over. I won the election November 2020. We're not through the first chapter yet. And I think this is the 4th time she said it. Anyway, I took office on January 4th, 2021. And about 5 months later, the murders happened at Moselle. Being a previous state court reporter gave me some knowledge of the events leading up to the Murdaugh double murder trial. I heard confidential things behind closed doors and in the courtroom, and I learned a lot of information. I was very familiar with the attorneys and the way things proceeded in a courtroom. I had watched the clerk's office do their job and knew how the procession would occur. The court was like a second home to me. In June 2021, I was on the phone with my friend and colleague, Melinda Nettles. She's mentioned this lady again, from Hampton County, and she told me about the homicides at Moselle. She said, Becky, this is in your county. Melinda, it is, isn't it? I said, surprised. Clutching her pearls again. Before we even knew who or really what happened, I knew that whoever would be charged with murdering Maggie and Paul Murdaugh would be coming to my courthouse. Her courthouse. Working in Walterboro, a close-knit community, we wanted to find out who did this horrible act. Collectively, everybody felt bad for Alec and Buster and worried about how they must be feeling. Poor Randolph, Alec's father, wasn't in the best of health, and we wondered how he must be feeling about this. He died just a few days after the murders in June 2021. Apparently didn't feel good. Damn. We surmised that the murderer might be someone with hard feelings against Paul regarding the Daily Boat accident in 2019, or it could be drug related, and that they meant to get Alec, who wasn't home at the time, or Paul, and then Alec was charged with the murders. At first, people in the community were divided, and I was too. How could a father murder his wife and child? That just couldn't happen. Some thought it might have been a hit or that Alec had help cleaning up the scene. Many people were on the fence, and there was a lot of speculation. Before the trial, true crime podcasts took off in a big way, and so many people wanted to find out why Alec Murdaugh did or didn't commit this crime. This murder happened in 2021. She thinks true crime podcasts just took off in 2021. Okay, BeckyBoo. That is the end of chapter 1, friends. And like I said, we will continue with the dramatic review because I find BeckyBoo really annoying and I don't feel like anyone is really holding her to account as much as they should. Well, what do y'all think, friends? We'll go out with a palette cleanser and I hope everyone's having a good day. Let me know what y'all think in the comments.